Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business News Afternoon Report for Thursday, the 5th of December, 2024. I'm Sean Elmer. Every afternoon, we've got the 5 stories that happened today that you need to know about. Story number 1, the S&P ASX 200 closed up just a touch today, 0.1% to 8475 points. The tech stocks and consumer discretionary companies did best. The real estate investment trusts were among the worst. On the day, Pro Medicus was up again. WiseTech Global, Transurban, Coles, they all had good days. So too Northern Star and South 32, the big miner. Worst was Goodman Group, Santos and Woodside, BHP and James Hardie. The other big news in markets today, Bitcoin pushed through 100,000 US dollars a unit. That's on the back of Donald Trump appointing a crypto fan to be the regulator. The Aussie dollar ended the day down at 64.3 US cents. Story number 2, Rio Tinto is under pressure to unify its dual listing structure, offering shares only in Australia, although boss Jakob Stausholm is against the idea. At the moment, you can buy Rio shares on the British and Australian markets. BHP used to be the same, though it dropped its dual listing structure and went all in on the ASX back in early 2022. That boosted its market cap, making it then the biggest company on the bourse. Some shareholders think Rio should do the same. Now, about 77% of shares in Rio are traded in the UK, about 23% or thereabouts in Australia. Rio argues that the dual listing reflects what the miner is, part British, part Australian. The Australian shares actually trade at a slight premium because you get tax benefits if you buy Rio shares and live in this country. Mr. Stausholm today hinted at issuing more Aussie shares to fix the imbalance. That's actually the opposite of dropping the dual listing. The comments came at an investor briefing. Rio's forecast a big jump in copper output over the next 12 months or so to offset reliance on iron ore. Its share price initially fell before recovering to close flat. Story number 3, Treasurer Jim Chalmers has left open the prospect of Labor expanding the definition of a small business from 15 to 25 employees, a change that would exempt more companies from onerous workplace relations laws, but would definitely anger the union movement. Dr. Chalmers was responding to a joint push by Teal MPs to broaden the definition, a move backed by the Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Australian Industry Group, and the Council of Small Business Organisations Australia. According to the AFR, in a joint letter to Workplace Relations Minister Murray Watt last month, the 8 lower house Teal MPs argued that businesses with fewer than 25 employees, which could include casuals, should not be subject to the same workplace rules as major corporations. It would exempt about 46,500 businesses, or about 5% of all employers, from Fair Work Act rules such as unfair dismissal provisions and having to pay union delegates to take time off for training. It would also delay right to disconnect rules coming into force, remove those businesses from multi-employer bargaining, and reduce red tape requirements. Story number 4, US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan has championed AUKUS as one of the most ambitious defence projects in modern history and the linchpin of US efforts to build an integrated defence industrial base for the free world. Mr. Sullivan promoted AUKUS as one of the outstanding achievements of the Biden administration and a key piece of America's global strategy to deter future conflicts in an area of growing strategic uncertainty, according to a report in The Australian. In a message to Donald Trump, Mr. Sullivan said it was imperative to strengthen the US defence industrial base to deter threats in Europe, the Middle East and the Indo-Pacific arising from greater cooperation between China, Russia, North Korea and Iran. This would require not just more investment, but smarter investment, production, innovation, and integration with allies. He urged the incoming administration to accelerate the production of critical munitions, vital air defence capabilities, and autonomous systems while pursuing major acquisition reform at the Department of Defence. And finally, story number 5, the French government has collapsed after Prime Minister Michel Barnier was removed after a no-confidence vote. He was only appointed by President Emmanuel Macron 3 months ago. Mr. Barnier has been under fire since he used special powers to force through a budget without a vote. Now, the budget included big tax increases and spending cuts. The far right teamed up with the leftist bloc in Parliament to vote the Prime Minister out. That's the first time it's happened in more than 60 years. Mr. Macron now needs to find another PM. The French Parliament is divided into 3 blocks, none of which have a majority. And a quick update of the crisis in South Korea. President Yoon has sacked his defence minister, who yesterday he blamed for suggesting martial law in the country, even though he was the one that declared it. Plenty to play out on that one. That's it for the afternoon report for Thursday, the 5th of December, 2024. Make sure you hit follow on the podcast We'll be back tomorrow morning with the Friday edition of the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your evening.